Well, some interesting news came out today about what it takes to actually hijack a plane. You don't have to actually be on the plane. You don't have to have box cutters, or you don't have to have a lot of liquid to hijack a plane. No, actually you can do it from an Android phone. Yes, a hacker used an Android to remotely attack and hijack a plane. In a practical demonstration of how to remotely attack and take full control of an aircraft, this seminar, Hack in a Box security conference, they said the complete attack will be accomplished remotely without needing physical access to the target aircraft at any time, and a testing laboratory will be used to attack virtual airplane systems. The person doing this said that once he's into the airplane's computer, he's able to manipulate the steering of a Boeing jet while the aircraft was in autopilot mode. And the only countermeasure available to pilots, if they even realize they're being hacked, would be to turn off the autopilot. Yet many planes no longer have old analog instruments for manual flying. Tesco, the person doing the hacking, said that he could take control of most all airplane systems, and he could even cause the plane to crash by setting it on a collision course with another plane, or perhaps with a collision course with a skyscraper. Who knows? It's interesting, I find, that if you look at Operation Northwoods, they were talking about remotely controlling airplanes and staging a false flag terrorist attack back in the 1960s. And we didn't see anything about any remote control technology until really after September 11th. And then it was all over the place. We saw everything about Predator drones and global Hawk drones that were spying on people, used for surveillance. That became kind of a large part of the narrative of the Afghanistan war right after September 11th. That didn't just pop on the scene any more than the X-ray machines at the airports just popped on the scene conveniently after the underwear bomber. No, these things are in the pipeline for a very long time, especially if it's something that is militarily developed. And you can bet that if somebody can do that today with an Android, 10 years ago there was technology that the Pentagon had where they could do that. And it's not just airplanes that they're hacking, it's also minds that they're hacking. There's a lot of stories lately about mind control and brain control. And just the last several days, we've had stories about artificial brain. We've had stories about robotic brains using nanotechnology to let them be self-aware and autonomously make their own decisions. And now we see a story about, from Popular Science, a Harvard neuroscience scheme to change decisions in your brain. Volunteers were told that they could press a button whenever they'd liked to remember the position of a clock's second hand at the moment they decided to act. 5 seconds before the volunteers reported that they had decided to press the button, the scientists noted electrical activity in the area of the brain involved in initiating movement. Now that scientist, Kryman, is taking that experiment a step further. As soon as he sees a telltale brain activity that signals a decision to push the button, he flashes a stop sign on a screen in front of the volunteer. So far, all we have is people saying, "That's weird. How did you read my mind?" So no mind control yet, but just a bit of harmless mind reading, according to Popular Science. It may not be all that harmless. When the government is doing these many experiments openly on mind control, and mind control experiments, of course, go back again to the 1960s, to MK Ultra, to the LSD experiments that the CIA was doing. This stuff, though, is coming out into the forefront quite a bit now. We're seeing a lot of stories about this, and the implications of this are very troubling, especially in this case. They're looking at not only telling in advance the decisions that someone is going to make, but also changing their mind, manipulating them in that way. Well, from hacking planes and from hacking minds, we're going to have a report now from Kristen Megan about hacking the environment.
I want to tell you a little story about my previous identity. In my previous identity, I'm known as Sergeant Kristen Edwards. Throughout my career, I was stationed all over the nation, all over the world. I started out in England. My job was in bioenvironmental engineering. When I was at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, I heard about geoengineering, and I thought, oh, those crazy conspiracy loons. I'm sure we've all heard of Alex Jones from Infowars.com. Yeah. The man I once thought was a loon, wearing a tinfoil hat, living in a bunker, that I just shunned off as, you know, this guy doesn't get it. Did he strap on a uniform? Has he gone out there and defended his country? Well, part of my job in bioenvironmental engineering was to approve hazardous materials that came on the base. I sat at a computer and I approved those hazardous materials on base and tied them to a process and a building. So when I started approving what is called an Air Force Form 3952, the approval of hazardous materials, and I started seeing barium, aluminum oxide, and strontium come on the base from a contractor whose name was not listed, which was not normal, I started to realize that those crazy tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists might not be so crazy. I lived about less than a mile behind the flight line at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, in Oklahoma City. And due to my background as an industrial hygienist and an environmental specialist, I conducted soil grid sampling and grade sampling. Those of you who may not be too privy to chemistry, you know that there's natural elements occurring in Earth. Aluminum is one of them. However, barium, radioactive, and strontium are not. So I conducted those samples and saw limits in my community that would make your head spin. And I started to realize that those peers within my professional community that were trying to wake those of us in the military up were right. In 2009, late 2009, I stumbled upon something that changed my life. I ran across an operation at Warner Robins Air Force Base, which was exposing thousands of civilians to carcinogens. People were getting sick. People were getting cancer. People had sores in their mouth from something called strontium chromate, or chrome-6, a carcinogenic metal used in military operations. So after what I saw at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, and then what I saw at Warner Robins Air Force Base, Georgia, everything that I knew, everything that I thought I knew, this great nation, we are heroes. I had 4 stripes on my arm and 11 medals and ribbons on my chest. I thought I was protecting my homeland. And I'd ask you that are veterans, or any of you that are civilian, what do you do in your careers? Do you work in the medical profession? Do you work in an airport? Where do you work? And what do you see? Because I guarantee you, if you step back and you connect those dots, you will see things that never made sense to you before. If you know someone who's in the military now, or you know a veteran, engage them. It's your due diligence. Whether you or not you agree with, quote, conspiracy websites like Infowars.com or Prison Planet, or whether you believe in geoengineering or chemtrails, please believe me, because I saw it firsthand, okay? This is not what I want to be known for. It's a huge target on my back. I ask you to ask those veterans in your family or those friends and ask them to rise up, as Robbie Wells says. Do your part. Defend your nation. Join Oath Keepers. Get in touch with all the alternative media outlets. Support the acts and musicians. You guys, it all matters. I have people tell me, why do you do what you do? There's nothing we can do about it. I know the TSA is unconstitutional, but what can we do about it? Well, let me tell you, I've done things about it, okay? I've shot documentaries. I've done TV shows. I have things in the works I can't even mention so that they don't get edited before they air. You can do something about it. So just remember these numbers. 2001. I thought I was doing good. 4 stripes on my arm, 11 medals on my chest. One day to change my life. What day will be yours? Because trust me, it will come. It will directly affect you, and you will remember this. So please, rise up, do your due diligence, do your own investigations, and support your military by educating them.